Hello and welcome to Data Planet. I'm Emma Davis, and today's guest, Caitlin Cassady, is Vice President of Marketing at Beyond. Welcome to the show, Caitlin.
Thanks for having me, Emma. I'm excited to be here.
All right, so Beyond is not the most descriptive brand name. So can you tell us a little bit about, that could be anything. Is there a bed, a bath involved? Tell me more about this.
Yes.
Who are
um,
your customers? What do you guys do?
yes. The tech description for what we do is we are a revenue management system for the short-term rental industry. Basically, what that means, though, is if you are a host that hosts one property on Airbnb to try and make some extra side money for vacations, or if you are a property manager with a business with 100, 1,000 listings that you manage, ultimately what we're trying to help you do is make sure that your listings are performing at the highest level possible, that your teams have the time back, and that you were able to grow your business by much more concretely managing your revenue. So it comes out in things like dynamic pricing, automations to ensure you know which parts of your portfolio are underperforming, and then we have automated recommendations and notifications on how to get that back on track. But ultimately, um, the bookings you get in the short-term rental industry are your revenue baseline, and so everything related to how do you make sure you're getting the right bookings at the right price at the right time is ultimately what we're trying to help our customers do.
Super cool. So there's a ton of data, I imagine, that goes into that, and a lot of instances where, especially if I'm an amateur at this and I don't have tools in place, I don't really know. Maybe I'm looking at properties around me and I guess they're listed for this, but I don't necessarily know if the World Cup is coming and people are looking to rent a home, or, what's high season or low season, and how to balance, what should I be offering? And I know it's more than just pricing, but pricing obviously is one of the big draws because it makes a huge difference between, does somebody book your property or not? And are you getting taken for a ride and missing revenue opportunity, or are you getting what your property's worth?
Exactly. Yeah. This is I think I realized the other day, this is my fifth startup that I've worked at in my marketing career. And this is the first time I've ever consciously said the words out loud. Like, we have too much data because we have all of this data about exactly what you said. Like, for every one of our customers, we have data about, they call them comp sets in our industry, but the listings around them. So we have comp set data. We have guest search data. So our guests searching for one night stays or 3 night stays in your area. That's really important to make sure that you don't have minimum stay requirements that are incompatible with what guests are looking for. So there's all this information out there. But some of it, I mean, we've talked about it. Our customers have talked about it. Sometimes it is overwhelming. So the cool thing that I'm excited about, because I can also see then parallels into how I work with my marketing team, is you need the right data, but you need data to be surfaced to you of hey, this is the data you need to pay attention to now, and take action on this data. Because you can just open up a dashboard and be like, well, damn, there's so much data here. What do I do?
Drowning now.
It's counting.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so I think that's the exciting part of where we're at today, both with our system, is helping people understand, informing them of where they need to pay the most attention, using all that data and pushing it into machine learning and AI so that we can automate the things that hey, we know you want to fill these extra nights. We're going to help do that for you. We're going to adjust prices. We're going to, recommend gap fill stays, but doing all this on behalf of our customers so that they then have time to focus on the right things in their system and what do they need to be doing with that data.
Got it. And so the from the consumer side, if I'm using your platform, does it come across as recommendations, or is it just I'm opted in and you go ahead and you do your thing, Beyond, and I'll be here just raking in the dough?
Yeah.
How does that work?
So we offer both. For some people, and I get it, because we're touching people's revenue with our business model, not everyone's comfortable at first. I know when I first started using different AI tools, I was like, whoa, 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 I want to understand why you got to this answer. And so we see a lot of that. So we start with, we provide recommendations and notifications on what to change, what to do next. We let people opt in. Do they want to get those recommendations via text? They'll show up in the dashboard when they open the application. We can email them to you. But we also then have a system information in place where it's hey, you've said yes to the last 3 recommendations. You just want us to automate this for you next time. So giving people the option to opt into it. Because to your point, for some of our businesses, it's like they're like, "Yeah, I don't wanna have to keep changing this one thing. You're right. Take that over for me. Let's go. I need more time back in my life to, like, think about guest management, think about, like, how do I find the next property I want to acquire?" Things like that.
Yeah. Okay. And so we've talked about a couple different like major segments. So
Mhm.
if I'm somebody who, I travel a lot for work or I have two homes and I split my time between them and I'd like to make money off of one of my properties while I'm not there, that looks very different from, I'm building my real estate empire and looking to, you know, not necessarily have long-term renters, but be making money off of these properties. Um,
Mhm.
how does that marketing approach look different? And also understanding it's a spectrum, right? There are some people who
Yeah.
may be like on the cusp. So are you
Mhm.
trying to segment your marketing to those different audiences with different messaging, different offerings? Or is it like this is a universal problem? If you have properties, this is of interest to you.
Yeah. It's a little of both, but let me explain why I say both, because at the core of it, um, we've really identified that there's like kind of three ways that Beyond is really like supporting our customer base independent of who they are. And so those remain the same when you kind of pull it all back to like the core like value proposition or like positioning of the company is like we are built to help our customers outperform the market. So like making sure they are maximizing those bookings. We are built to help our customers like really empower themselves and empower their teams through time back. Like how do you make sure you have kind of what we were just talking about, the right automations in place so that you have that like human in the loop kind of decision making. So it's like, great, this is automated, but I want to go here. And then the final piece is like, we are really built to help our customers grow because you're making more money, because you're getting more time back. Like, where are you able to then invest that? Um,
Yeah.
but what that looks like is very, very different if you have 3 properties or 300 properties that you're overseeing. And so we do then segment that messaging because for the 3 properties, it's maybe like, hey, here's how to acquire your next property. For a 300, that's how they think about growing. For growing for a 300 one, it's probably like, yes, you want to acquire more owners' properties. You also want to think about your profit margins when you're looking at 300. Like, how are we helping you optimize some of the other like areas of your business? So that's
Oh,
where we start to look at segmentation within the messaging is like, we still hold true to those kind of 3 value propositions of like why we know we're different in the market from any competitors. But yeah, like the segmentation does start to get pretty wild when you think about like the different types of audiences. I will say like we've been playing around a lot with like how do we think about like AI segmentation and how do we use that kind of like core messaging but work with LLMs to like deliver it slightly differently in different styles of campaigns
mhm.
because even just like 2 years ago we're like okay, here's our 3 kind of like subsets of the audience and this is how we talk to them and there was probably some that we got it a bit wrong because they were right on that edge, but you're really trying your hardest. And that's been the interesting thing is that like now with the capabilities of being able to say like this is our core message, here's our audiences, now go help us build slightly different versions of the messaging in that segmentation. I'm not saying we're anywhere close to perfect on it, but like we have gotten much, much better at being able to like much more granular, like personalize that messaging based on some of the just like different like fields we can do and the different capabilities that we've got in house now.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I could see, I mean, classically, any marketing audience, they're terrible at self segmenting. Like you
Yes.
never have, if you try to get, you know, a purely, this is just this segment audience, you're cutting out a huge part of the audience that you want to be targeting who just aren't identifying as clearly as,
Ex-
their peers. And so I can imagine there being people with like, I only have two properties, but I have my sights set on being a real estate mogul. And so I
Mhm.
already care about the margins because I'm treating this like this is going to be my full time job and I want something and so that message that if you're looking at the sort of clusters of the audience, that's really more geared towards the 300 plus. Well, maybe, everybody's different. So finding
Mhm.
ways to do that personalization and really meet people where they are, um,
Yeah,
great for conversion.
it's incredible. Yeah, because like that's been the exciting part is being able to pull in um like usage data as well and using that to personalize too because you can see if someone like kind of signs up for our like we have our free trial is really more of like a credit period. We give you a certain amount of credit to really test because we know that in our industry like there's slow periods, like 30 days may not actually be the right time for you to be testing, but you can kind of extend that with your credits. Um, and so during that phase, we've been doing some really cool segmentation based on like how have they come back again after that first sign up? Like, what did they do? And like really starting to like pull some of that in. Cause I think that's where you start to see the difference of like someone who's kind of dabbling because they're like, I've got two properties. Do I really need this? Versus the person with two properties who's like, at the end of the year, I want five properties and like they're really going hard at it. You can start to infer some of that from the data signals.
Yeah. And how much, so obviously for your product to operate, you talked about the wealth of data available. How much of that data is also useful to you internally at Beyond to identify your own customers? A lot of that, like behavior, pricing, like there's a lot of, I assume, opportunity for you to figure out where do we want to focus.
1000%. We use it regularly. Like when it comes to more the life cycle marketing part of it, like we are using like usage data, which types of like product adoption that they're seeing. We know which of our products are the stickiest and that like are getting the most rapid use. So we're trying to be like, oh, let's segment out the customers we know aren't using that right now and push them towards it. So that level of data and like understanding like which of our products are helping them the customer base move faster has been really, really cool on more of like the retention lifecycle side. But even on the, like, acquisition and, like, more demand gen side of the house, it's incredible to have this level of data because we can really do some pretty amazing things of, like, "Hey, in this market, here's the market trends we're seeing. Here's what guests are searching for." Like, all of this really cool information to really show potential customers the power of what our system does. And so using that be both at a regional level, been starting to get more and more, into, like, understanding hey, based on what we see customers doing, they're automating these types of activities, which is saving, like being concrete about the time savings. I think that's been like a pain point for me in every business is like, we save you time. And people are like, cool story. How much? Like,
Uh-huh.
uh-huh. Everyone says that. But actually being able to quantify because we have so much data in there, where like we can actually see how much time people are saving from this and like concretely like be confident like, "Hey, this is statistically significant because this is coming from thousands of users." And so that has been really, really cool to have that level of data for us to really showcase like the brand innovation, the power of what people will understand, and like getting more and more personalized with that through acquisition models as well.
Okay, very cool. And you started to touch on a little bit, um, using AI in your marketing approach and, LLMs and what does that afford for you? Um, I think one of the biggest challenges for marketers, every marketer right now, is reading through what's hype. Like, what do I actually need to pay attention to? And it's maddening. Like, there was a Google released an update. I think it was a couple of weeks ago now, essentially saying like all of your AI search engine optimization, AEO, GEO, all of that, like the foundation of that is good SEO. That is still the most important thing. And it was just like, oh my gosh, are you serious? Everybody losing their minds, pulling out their hair, or some people saying, I knew it. So what is helpful to you, like keeping up with changes in GEO, for example, and trying to read through like what's hype, what's useful?
Yeah. Um, it is maddening. But I think it's more too as you realize I think what I've been trying to maybe internalize myself and to like work with the team on is that like we're all learning on the fly right now because it does keep changing every 3 months. So like really focusing on like, okay, is it hype or not? But really more of like, what do we need to do more of? Like, what are the manual tasks in our people's day to day, like in our processes that just fundamentally shouldn't be manual anymore? And trying to start with that. So it's like there's always going to be like with the GEO side of the world, like our team was also very suspicious where it's like I kept seeing things where they're like, okay, but the chat GPT is just sending people to like Google search, like Google content anyway. So it's like you always kind of knew it was all going to be tied together, but it is maddening. So I think with that, we've just kind of adopted more of a like test, iterate. When the next algo change comes out and ruins our day, like great, acknowledge it, talk about what happened, and then like keep going. And I think at least with some of the like external facing ones, we've been a bit more comfortable with trying to do that. I think on the internal ones is like starting more like, let's adopt the places where like we know people hate having to do this every day. So even if there's fads out there, it's like, let's not worry about the fads. Let's worry about like, how do we make our team have more bandwidth back in their day, and kind of adopting the same approach we're doing with our customers, where I'm like, if it takes you 30 minutes to do the same routine shit every day, like there has to be a better way for us to do this in the world today. So we've been working pretty heavily with our ops team to start trying to figure out like, let's test it, let's see if it works, and then let's like figure out a way to like really seriously adopt it into like our systems. And like we have a very cool internal brain basically for our AI. Like our RevOps team has built an entire like MCP structure for us. So it's kind of like test first. Once we've proven like, yes, this is what we want to do, we're like, hey, Drops team, now we need your help to like operationalize the whole thing.
Now make it happen.
Let's make it happen. Let's
Yeah.
systematize it. But that's been the approach we've been taking, is that like I truly believe, I don't know, I came up on the content marketing side. And so, like, generative AI 5 years ago, like, everyone was losing their mind. Like, we're not going to have jobs anymore. And that just wasn't true, because, like, it can help get you good base content, but you need a strong point of view. You need to understand how to, like, review it and refine it and make it sound like a human. So, are confident in that, like, there's always gonna be things that we could, like, automate and improve, but that doesn't mean, like, we're getting rid of a bunch of humans. It just means we're kinda refining, like, what our jobs are now.
Yeah, totally. And one of the things that stood out to me most internally at my company with those conversations, I was expecting the conversation to really lean towards what are you spending the most time on?
Mhm.
And there was definitely an element of that, but there was also this like net energy measurement that my team was sort of circling around of this is the thing that I spend the ratio of time spent versus like satisfaction with my work is off on this. I just hate doing this task. It feels like, oh, this is so stupid and there should be a better way. And I would rather automate that than automate something that's more like complex and and that I get to the end of it and feel like, look what I just did. This is so cool. And so I think there's also that component too of like, we don't want to necessarily automate the things that are most fun to do either, because yeah, the outcome is not going to be as great. And also then like, what's the point? What are we doing here? It's-
Yeah. We've had a lot of conversations around, like, how do we make sure we don't automate the things that help people refine their critical thinking? You know?
nice. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's been a big one of, like, it because now anyone can produce anything, and it's like, okay, let's make sure that we're still teaching, especially folks coming up, like you and I, I'm like, I've been there, done that in my career a lot. I have a very defined opinion about what's good and not. But when you're still coming up, like, you have to kind of, like, have those experiences where, like, you struggle with a project, or, like, you royally mess something up and learn from it. And so, like, how do we make sure that we kinda keep that line there as well of, like, you have to learn how to critically think? But I love the idea of, like, the satisfaction one too, because 'cause you're right. We all have those parts of our jobs where we're like, "God, I would rather never have to do this again, even if it's only 5 minutes," you know?
Yeah, yeah. Why do I oh, weird, I keep putting this 5 to 10-minute task off. There's probably no reason for that. I'll get to it eventually. Yeah, all those things that you just have the little micro dread, uh,
Mhm.
feelings, but, yeah, no, that's such a good point about the critical thinking. Because yeah, like, thinking back to especially my early days as a marketer. So I went to school for math and then started doing marketing. And I've always loved writing and stuff, but I do remember, coming in and writing my first ad copy and being like, is this anything? And my boss is being like, no, it isn't. And oh, okay. It just, yeah, like, what is the value proposition? Who are you talking to here? Like, why would they care about this? How is this different from that thing? And like all of those things that I think similar to getting a math degree, I couldn't for the life of me do any of the advanced math that I did in college now, but the way it like shaped how I think about things and how I approach problems, like that's what I carried with me. It's the same thing in marketing. Like, well, what are the key points I need to make sure we're hitting here, or critically, like how do I know that this is working?
Mhm.
Because, you can generate so much stuff and then you need to review it to see like what do I think is actually going to work, and then you need to test it and figure out what did actually work and how will I know, and yeah, it's a big wide world, but it sounds like what you're getting at with that is like the basics are still
I think, like, not
there.
even yeah, it's like the basics are there. It's almost like the basics are even more critical now, because, like, you're not gonna be, I'm gonna use sports metaphors. My son is currently in baseball, so that's like embedded in my brain. But I'm like,
You
there's
ready?
only so many at bats you get now as a marketer to try things because so much has been automated versus when I started my career in PR, and I actually like I've always been a really good writer, but I was awful at like cold calling journalists. And like
Mm.
I it was miserable. I had to sit out in the like open area and my boss would like run me through what I messed up after every call, but like
Oh gosh.
I learned within a month, like I knew how to like quickly get to the point, how to like make sure I had the hook down, like that practice and that routine got me there. And when you think about how we engage with people now, like you just don't get as many of those opportunities to like learn it and internalize it. And so I do think the basics are even more critical now so that you have like a really good foundational starting point to understand like what should we be measuring, like almost like back to like the core 4 Ps of marketing, like
Mhm.
you need to understand those now so that you understand where to automate and where to put the human in the loop.
Fantastic. Let's go ahead and wrap up there. Listeners, if you want to learn more about Caitlin and beyond, details will be in the show notes. Caitlin, thank you so much for joining me today on Data Planet.
Thank you so much for having me, Emma. I really appreciate it.